Hetepu, Assalamu alaikum, Namaste, Haru Nefer. This is Kasankma Keparu with another video for you. In this video, I want to talk about the new Star Wars film, The Rise of Skywalker. And I want to give a different perspective on what's going on with this film. But before I do that, please hit the like button on this video. If this is your first time to my channel, welcome. Hit the subscribe button to get notifications on when I go live or when I upload recorded videos. Last but not least, please share this video with family and friends so we can get the revolution started. Now, I just recently saw the new film, Star Wars: The Rise of Skywalker. Besides the fact that I absolutely hated it, and a lot of people have mixed reactions, but the majority of people that I've spoken with on and offline are in agreement they don't like it. But something didn't sit well with me with this film, and I couldn't quite put my finger on it. So after a couple of days of just letting it marinate, it kind of dawned on me, and I realized why it bothered me. And I wanted to explore that with you because this premise that I have is not really being discussed in social media circles. And I think individuals are missing the bigger picture here. And what I mean by that specifically is around what they call identity politics. We hear that the SJWs have infiltrated Hollywood. They're now writing scripts. They're taking out white lead characters, white male lead characters, and making the films more diverse, even though the films don't need to be diverse. And in some cases, where they're putting strong female lead roles where there were already lead roles. Case in point, Aliens with Sigourney Weaver. They're totally restructuring the storyline, which didn't need to be done in the first place. Another case in point is Terminator, the most recent one, where it basically flopped at the box office. And I'm going to talk a little bit about that. But first and foremost, let's get into the whole idea of Star Wars. What I think perturbs me the most that people aren't discussing is because they're on this whole thing of identity politics and the SJWs. And I'm talking about the critics of the left, those who are on social media. And I believe they have a valid point. They really do. You know, I can see where mainstream media is causing this wedge between white males and white females, and also black males and black females. I can see that's being purposely orchestrated. And the nuclear family or the traditional family unit is being destroyed. But what we aren't seeing is this. Everyone's so quick to blame the studios, the writers, the special interest group, the SJWs, but they're not looking at their bigger picture. See, when you have studios like Disney and other studios coming out there, purposely writing films, or, and this is the worst offense, rebooting franchises to put female characters in there just for the sake of having female characters, like in the case of Ghostbusters 2016, or we can see the Men in Black. When studios start to do this in alignment, you have to ask yourself this question. How is this happenstance? How suddenly does this happen? And when you start asking those questions, you begin to look at the bigger picture that they're getting an edict, an order from up high. And this order is not coming from the studios. It's coming from an outside entity. And it's getting all of the Hollywood studios, all of Hollywood on the same page. And there is a bigger agenda that's going on here. Now, when Disney purchased George Lucas's Star Wars IP, many Star Wars fans thought that we would see some really kick-ass films. But what we got was nothing more than programming interjected with identity politics. And when you look at it from the fact that Star Wars is a brand that is global, this was a prime opportunity for Disney to enact their edict, their order from up high, from the hidden hand, to put in place, I can't even say subliminal messages because they're so overt. You see, the problem that the main issue here is not what the studios are doing, it's the fact that we're not seeing who's really the puppet master. Because the studios are just um, following up on their orders. They're just initiating what they've been told to do. They're executing it. Who's giving the orders? Where is this coming from? You see, I consider the special interest groups like the SJWs, the feminists, and all of these others to not necessarily be organic. I think they are constructed, they are financed by individuals like George Soros, who takes his order from a bigger entity. But let's get more into Star Wars so you can understand the point I'm trying to make here. So Disney bought Star Wars from George Lucas. They bought the IP. And instead of making an entertaining set of films, they had to put in place what they call was more diversity, strong female empowerment. Now, no one is against strong female empowerment. In fact, the very first Star Wars had Princess Leia Carrie Fisher, who stepped up to the plate, and I remember seeing her take the gun from Luke Skywalker and start shooting the stormtroopers. She was very much in your face, strong, and she would talk back to you. So there was really no reason for Kathleen Kennedy, who's head of Lucasfilm, to come out there and start talking about strong female empowerment. Well, lo and behold, they say they're going to have a more diverse cast, and what they give us is the character of Finn, a black character. But like Hollywood has always done, he's nothing more than a two-dimensional character. And his background is where he was a stormtrooper, but not just a stormtrooper. He worked in the he was a garbage man in a trash compactor. And you can't tell me that Disney is that tone deaf to realize that that is a insult. Same thing with Ghostbusters 2016, where you had the black female character, I forgot the comedian's name, and she had no scientific knowledge whatsoever. She just came right off the street, while the other white girls had all of the schooling and the privilege. Now let's talk about this. Let's get into Star Wars: The Rise of Skywalker. Many Star Wars fans were not happy with The Last Jedi. So Kathleen Kennedy and Rian Johnson, well, parted ways, and she brought J.J. Abrams on to course correct. And what we got was a total mess of a film. But here's how low Disney, taking their orders from the unseen hand, was willing to stoop to program the masses of people on the planet. Because remember, Star Wars is a great opportunity, the franchise, the IP, to program the masses of people on the planet. Mind control. And this has been done from the very beginning of the inception of Hollywood. This is nothing new. This is what they do. They determine the cultures. They determine, the morals. So in comes J.J. Abrams to fix this mess that Rian Johnson left off, and ends up creating a bigger mess. But it didn't have to be that way. He could have written a very good story. There were pieces he could have picked up and kept going. But then I asked myself, well, why? Why couldn't he have written a better story? Now, there are so many plot holes, so many MacGuffins in the film. It is, for one thing, the film is an insult to every film student out there. Just because J.J. Abrams is a well-known producer, director, does not disqualify him from good writing, from good storytelling, from good directing. And the Rise of Skywalker is an F in terms of story, screenwriting. It's just unbelievable. Now, they played with hinting at that Rey and Finn would have a relationship, and we never saw that come to fruition. Mind you now, these are the people talking about diversity. But you have to understand what they're trying to push. They're trying to create a wedge between white men and white females, black men and black females. And in order to do that, they certainly would not have an interracial couple on screen. So this thread where they hinted at some type of attraction between the two was never completed, never followed up on. And Finn has the most interesting story where he plays a stormtrooper who defects. And many people love that concept. They love that idea. They want to know what he saw, the trauma he's gone through, but that's never completed. But again, we hint at this type of love affair that's supposed to have happened on screen. And Hollywood has a history of not wanting to see black men with black women. Oh, I'm sorry, with actually white women. But that is true too. They don't want black men to have a healthy and loving and respectful relationship with a black woman on screen. And definitely not a white woman. In fact, when they write these interracial on-screen love affairs, when they do come up, it's either the black man or the white female have some type of dysfunction which keeps them from getting together, keeps them from having a loving and functional relationship. Then they went even further as to hint at some type of bro romance between Poe and Finn, which of course that never went anywhere either. But now I want you to understand really what they wanted to do. And this involved having Rey as what we call as the Mary Sue. You see, they need to prop up the female and in doing so put down the male. Now, many great movies out there have had strong female characters. James Cameron's Aliens with Sigourney Weaver is one. The Terminator, Sarah Connor, is another. And those films did not need to put down the man to elevate the female. Many people to this day admire and idolize Sigourney Weaver. They idolize Sarah Connor. But when the edict came down to Hollywood, they took these established franchises, Star Wars included, to rewrite them, and not only to reboot these films, but it was very important to trash the legacy and the history of the films that came before them, and to make it seem like, in essence, the male character's arc or his success in the previous films were undone so that the female in the reboot version could take over. You see, in Terminator, the Terminator came back, and what was the first thing that happened in the beginning of the film? He had to kill Sarah Connor's son, the one that was supposed to lead us against Skynet, John Connor. In Star Wars, The Rise of Skywalker, for them to put in place that same storyline, that same plot, to undo the previous films, what they did was they brought in Rey as a Mary Sue who could float, who could levitate, who could do all kinds of things with the Force that were never possible before because she's better than all the men. And she had to basically take a dump on all of those other films so that she could be the one that could be successful, that could save the universe. And to do that, Disney did two things with J.J. Abrams and Kathleen Kennedy's consent. Disney brought back a character that was dead, the Emperor. Now, there is no way in this world you can explain a character who died in Return of the Jedi at the hands of Anakin Skywalker should return. It is an impossibility for him to come back in The Rise of Skywalker. But you see how they were reaching and pulled him out of their ass? They've got to do something to undo what Anakin Skywalker and Luke Skywalker did because they're males. So they bring back the Emperor and expect you not to logically want an answer for this. And the next thing they did, which was the most atrocious thing, is that Carrie Fisher, who everybody loves and respects as Princess Leia and General Leia, instead of having her rest in peace with Rian Johnson's film The Last Jedi, they had to bring back old footage of her so that she could train Rey to be a Jedi. Not Mark Hamill, not Luke Skywalker. They don't want a male training Rey. They had to have a female train Rey. And in fact, Rey referred to General Leia as Master Leia, who was never a Jedi. She was never a Jedi. And if you think that I'm wrong, there is a flashback scene in the movie where you see Luke training Leia. And what happens in that flashback scene? Leia knocks him to the ground. She gets the best of him to show you that it's all about female empowerment, women. Well, not really female empowerment because no one has an argument with that. But what they're doing is that they want to create this friction to pit the two against each other. And for them to use the old footage of Leia, or I should say Carrie Fisher, just so it can fulfill their agenda, is disgusting. It is outright disgusting. Let me reiterate the point. To put these plot threads together to make the rise of Skywalker, they had to first bring back a character who was 110% dead, the Emperor Palpatine. He is dead, but they had to bring him back. No logical explanation. The reason he had to come back because they didn't want Anakin and Luke Skywalker, really Anakin Skywalker or Darth Vader, to be the hero, to be the chosen one. They had to have a female do it. And that was going to be Rey, the Mary Sue. She can do anything. She can heal now. She's Jesus. Then they would bring back a dead woman through old footage just so she could train Rey. They would not allow a man to be the patriarch to train Rey as though Luke Skywalker should have. That would have made logical sense. He was the strongest Jedi. The Force runs strong in his family. This is appalling, it's disgusting, and it's low of Disney. But they have to fulfill their agenda. They have to enact the plan, the global plan of media programming. They have got to emasculate males. They have got to show males that you mean nothing to the world. And what better way to do that is to create a new set of films by rebooting established franchises that we all know and love: Terminator, Ghostbusters, Star Wars. These films have a global reach. They make billions upon billions of dollars, and that means seats in the theater. That means exposure to a message, an idea, a concept. So the established ruling elite, hiding behind the scenes, sends out their memorandum to the studios, Hollywood, the propaganda machine, to reboot old successful franchises where you will shit on the male character and prop up the female character. Make the males seem incompetent. Make the women seem to be so powerful that they're on the level of Jesus. And this is what they have done. But put it all in the guise of diversity, saying we're being more diverse. See, they can't just come out and do this. They've got to seem like they have this altruistic idea that they're running with. And if they were truly about diversity, well, what happened to this This never finished up. In fact, Rey had more of a relationship with Kylo Ren, an abusive boyfriend, lover, than someone like Finn, who has more moral characters than Kylo Ren does. So my point being is this. We can have a discussion about how bad Star Wars is, what's going on with all these movies, about how they're rebooting franchises and putting women in them for no reason at all. But we cannot blame individuals like Kathleen Kennedy and J.J. Abrams, because this is coming from higher up. Because when all of the studios get together and start to mimic one another and do the same thing, the question arises, who's pulling the strings? This is Kasak Ma'akeparu, son of Ma and Tootie. My aunt is the beautiful goddess Heteru. Until my next video, I'm in Ra.